Hello, everybody, and welcome, wanderers, to another Parallax ASMR video. Today, I thought it would be fun to take a look at this book that I have. It's the Illustrated Histories of Everyday Expressions. So, if you know everyday expressions, they're called idioms. So we say, don't let the cat out of the bag, or don't look a gift horse in the mouth, or that person flew off the handle. Those are all idioms, and they come from somewhere. Although they might seem random, they're not totally random. And this book explores the origin of everyday expressions. So, let's take a look. Let's see, there's an index. I love language, by the way, and I have for a long time. I'm an avid fiction writer, and I've written poetry in the past, and I was an English major in undergrad, and then I got my master's degree in English literature and creative writing, so language has always been fascinating to me. I love etymology, which is the study of where words come from, like the origin of words. If you're familiar with the Oxford English Dictionary, that's like the big one. They have a lot of etymology in their dictionary. There's a movie. This is turning into more of an ASMR ramble, but I promise we'll get to the book in a second. There's a movie about the person who I believe made the most contributions to the OED. That's the Oxford English Dictionary. It was something like The Professor and the Madman or something. The story goes, I actually heard about this story in undergrad before I saw that movie. The story goes that there's this guy in like a maximum security prison, and in somewhere in England, I think, and he had a love of language, a deep love of language, and he had access to a library there. And the OED, when it was first created, was accepting submissions to put together like a full collection of words and instances of where these words appeared for the first time and throughout history and what their meaning was based on context clues. Anyway, this person who is in jail, I forget who it was, but or he was in prison rather, he submitted like I'm pretty sure it was thousands of words to the OED, and is credited as the most prolific contributor, I guess you would say. Anyway, let's look at some of these idioms. Let's look for a good one. Okay, letting the cat out of the bag. Also, I got a camera monitor for Christmas, and it is mounted above my camera, so if you see me looking up there, that's why. I'm sure that the pages are in view. So, let the cat out of the bag. If you don't know, it means carelessly reveal a secret. I thought it said to carelessly reveal a secret, and that would have made me unhappy. Because, fun fact, I promise we will get to this book. This is going to turn out to be like a 30-minute video, and we're going to get through 3 idioms. But this is what I do. I nerd out on language. To run, to walk, to bathe, to sit, to see, to stand. Those are all infinitives, which means they're unconjugated verbs. So like to walk is unconjugated. If you were to conjugate it, it would be I walk, or he walks, or she walks, or they walk, or we walk. You might, it's funny how we learn languages. We learn languages just through picking it up from hearing other people speak them, which is incredible. just said I was thinking of thousands of things, and then as soon as I went to say them, they just left my mind. What the heck was I just saying? Oh yeah. Okay. Conjugated verbs, unconjugated verbs. You might remember this from if you took a second language in middle school or high school or college, or if you've just learned a language outside of school. So when you're learning a language for the first time, you don't really think about conjugations, but when you're learning a language in school, where they are notoriously bad at teaching languages, not the teachers, just to be clear, the school boards or whoever creates these programs for children to follow, and adults. That's just not how we learn. Looking at conjugation tables, you never did that for your native language. You just learned it. I have a really cool example of this, actually, how we learn things. I'm getting so off topic. My younger cousin, when he was maybe like 2 or 3, he was telling us a story about, they have chickens, and he was telling us a story. He was basically just telling us about a chicken. And he said, and the chicken goed in the woods. And that's cool because he never heard anybody say that. He is taking a rule that he intuited from listening to people speak, and he applied it to a word that he wanted to conjugate. So it should be the chicken went in the woods, but he knows from context clues only, or just from hearing it only, that when you want to put a verb in the past tense, you add a d noise at the end. That's obviously not always the case, but it's very common. Walked, carried, breathed. There are lots and lots of examples. But he intuited that was the rule for putting things in the past tense. And just think about how amazing that is, that not only did a 2 or 3-year-old intuit how to put words in the past tense, but that they also just understood the past tense. Humans are amazing. Let's get to the book. Oh no, I can't, because I forgot to tell you. I thought this said to carelessly reveal a secret, and that would have made me unhappy because that to reveal is an unconjugated verb, and centuries ago, Latin was the language of the elite, and when English started becoming more and more popular, English speakers wanted to make English the new Latin, and so they wanted to follow a lot of the rules that Latin does. So in Latin, you physically can't split an infinitive because, as you might know from if you've learned another language, or if your primary language or native language is like a Romance language, Spanish, French, Italian, you might know that verbs are naturally one word. Correr in Spanish is to run. I'm very rusty on Spanish, so this might be wrong. Beber is to drink. Comer is to eat. So those are single words, and that Spanish comes from Latin, as it's a Romance language. So when English speakers were trying to make English the new, like, highfalutin language that the upper class spoke, they wanted to make it like Latin, and since you physically can't split an infinitive in Latin, they made this arbitrary rule that you couldn't split an infinitive in English. And in English, most verbs are 2 words: to drink, to walk, to eat, to sit, to stand, to go, to stay. They're all 2 words, and when you to split an infinitive means to put a word in the middle of the 2 and the second half of the verb. So an example would be to boldly go, to boldly go, where no man has gone before. That would be splitting an infinitive. To go is the verb. To boldly go is splitting that infinitive. So it's a silly rule, I admit that, but it still bothers me when people split it because it suggests that it's a silly rule. I know that and I admit that, but it still kind of bothers me when I see it. Anyway, let the cat out of the bag. Pigs, like all farm animals, were valuable commodities pigs in 1700s Europe. Street vendors sold baby pigs in easy-to-carry burlap sacks. Dishonest salespeople replaced the piglets with cats, which were far less valuable animals. When one of these cats managed to wriggle free, thereby letting the cat out of the bag, the deceit was revealed. I figured I would show you the pictures too, especially because I can now use my fancy camera monitor to butter someone up. That means, oh, they did split the infinitive. This wasn't planned, I promise. To excessively praise or flatter. In ancient India, citizens took part in a religious tradition that involved throwing balls of butter at statues of deities. This was said to bring good fortune to all who took part. In Tibet, people would even build entire sculptures out of butter. By buttering up the gods, it was hoped that they would be met with good favor. Skeleton in the closet. That's a good one. An embarrassing or damaging secret. In plague-ridden 1800s England, disease was far more debilitating than it is today. Typhus, cholera, yellow fever, bubonic plague, influenza, measles, and smallpox wiped out hundreds of thousands of people at a time. Even the slightest sign of sickness was dangerous, so it was kept a secret whenever possible. Legend has it that some families would even hide a sick child in the closet when guests visited, literally keeping the skeleton in the closet. Oh, I forgot to show you the pictures. The spine is very crackly, but perhaps this phrase was more typically used in a figurative way to describe the shady manner in which people hid their diseases, aka skeletons, to avoid being ostracized by others. That one is very morose, so I'm going to skip that. Spill the beans, that's a good one. It means accidentally reveal information. Citizens of ancient Greece voted on a matter by placing a bean in a vase. Do you say vase or vase? I always say vase. One color bean was a yes, and another color bean was a no. To effect any change, the vote had to be completely unanimous. If someone accidentally spilled the beans and revealed more than one color of bean, the vote was halted. This reminds me of something else interesting. Affect and effect. A-F-F-E-C-T and E-F-F-E-C-T. An easy way to remember which one to use if you are ever confused is to remember A for action if you want to affect someone's day, for example, by buying them a coffee. Then it's A because you're taking an action. If you want buying the coffee to have an effect, that effect is not an action. It's just a thing, so it is E-F-F-E-C-T. Now, that's not a rule. It's just a general thing that you can go by. And it's not a rule because they can actually swap. So A-F-F-E-C-T can also be affect. A person's affect is like their personality, like who they are. And as you heard in the book, to affect, that would be an infinitive, right? Unconjugated verb with an E-F-F-E-C-T, to affect any change, and that means to bring about. The reason that it's easy to remember A for action is because EFFECT is not very common as a verb, and AFFECT is not a common noun that people use. So, generally speaking, you can usually just remember A for action. I'm going to skip that one. Mind your own beeswax. It means to mind your business. And in the 1700s, women wore beeswax on their faces to cover up blemishes and smooth out their complexions. So some say that if a woman caught someone staring at her face for too long, she might become insulted and tell the person to mind their own beeswax. They also give a caveat, which I appreciate. That may or may not be true, but one thing is for sure, beeswax is a charming and alternative substitute for the word business. Okay. Well, that's not very informative, but at least they admitted that it might not be true. Straight from the horse's mouth. This one, when I got this book, I knew a few of these, their origins, but I did not know this one, and this is really cool. It means to receive information from the best possible source. In the past, horse traders often lied about horses' ages to increase their value. I've been forgetting to show you the pictures, so I'm sorry. This is a funny picture also. A horse in a basket with a price tag. Smart buyers, however, were careful to examine a horse's teeth. This was a foolproof way to determine a horse's age. Once they had gotten the information straight from the horse's mouth, they knew the truth. So, as you can see, I don't know if this is accurate, but if a horse tooth looks like that, they're about 2 years old. If it looks like that, they're about 5 years old. And if it looks like that, they're about 10 years old. I'm assuming this is not an accurate picture, but isn't that a really cool origin for that idiom? That one's pretty good. That one's not bad. Barking up the wrong tree. It means pursuing the wrong course of action. In 1700s America, do you notice that a lot of these are 1700s? In 1700s America, hunters often brought dogs along on a hunt to chase small animals and flush them out of hiding. Sometimes a dog would chase an animal into a tree, and the animal would stealthily hop to another tree's branches. The confused dog would keep barking up the wrong tree while the sneaky animal would run to safety. That's actually not a great one also. This is a great picture of a dog and a hunter, I guess. But even better is the depiction of the animal jumping through the trees. It is a fox. I don't know if a fox can climb trees. Close but no cigar. I like this one. It means almost but not quite. Stuffed animals and trinkets are common prizes at American carnivals. But back in the 1800s, lucky fairgoers were rewarded with cigars. People tried their luck at a fair game hoping to win a stogie. When an unlucky player fell just short of the prize, they were close, but no cigar. And one thing is for sure, shifty carnival workers have always made sure that nobody wins too often. Now that is a shifty carnival worker. Tearing off my glasses. Pull someone's leg. I don't know this one, so I'm interested to find this out too. It means to joke around or play a prank. And I guess we'll make this the last one, as I've been recording for a little over 20 minutes now. As the story goes, in 1800s England, poverty was so widespread that many orphaned street children turned to pickpocketing to get by. These pint-sized purse snatchers were called natty lads. Natty lads. They were savvy thieves who worked in pairs to rob victims at lightning speed. Here is how it worked. The first crook pulled the legs out from under the target to distracting them. Meanwhile, the second crook made off with their wallet, pocket watch, jewelry, and more. They misspelled jewelry here. The confused Mark chased after the leg-pulling trickster instead of the real thief. So that is how "are you pulling my leg" has come to mean "are you fooling me?" Interesting. I'm not sure I totally get that one. Oh, I see. I wasn't really paying attention as I was reading it, but I get it now. Okay. I think that is all we have time for. We would have had time for more if I didn't ramble about language, and language acquisition for a few minutes at the beginning, but I hope you enjoyed these. If you did, let me know if you want to see more, and I can definitely go through some additional ones. And I can also talk about some cool language things. I used to have a channel in which I discussed things related to language years ago, but I ended up stopping that a long time ago and never went back. And I actually went through some of the things in this book on that channel. Anyway, thanks so much for